Welcome to Law Minds YouTube channel. In this video, we are going to discuss on the topic of false imprisonment under tort law. Now, what is false imprisonment? When a civilian or law enforcement official imprisons someone without the proper authorization, it is known as false imprisonment. False arrest is just one aspect of false imprisonment, despite the name being used for it, though they go by different names. Wrongful arrest and false imprisonments are essentially the same thing, and courts treat them as the same tort. There are three elements of false imprisonment. The intention factor. False imprisonment laws typically need to be deliberate. Unless they act with the intent to confine someone, an average person is not accountable for wrongful imprisonment. In order to determine whether false imprisonment is an intentional tort, the judges must consider the evidence that has been provided to them. Next one is knowledge of the plaintiff. There is no need for the persons alleged with false imprisonment to be aware of this freedom restriction. For example, if a person is confined in a room and the plaintiff knows it only on entry, the room has more than one entry. Even if they are not known to the plaintiff, the defendant will be liable. The last one is willful detention. A wrongful imprisonment must be deliberate. It's not unlawful confinement since it is improper imprisonment. If you unintentionally close the door when someone is on the other side, it entails physically preventing someone from leaving the actual room or any comparable confinement. Now, what are the remedies for being falsely imprisoned? Actions for loss. The ground for these damages is harm, including psychological distress, embarrassment, damage to one's reputation, or for bodily suffering. The court makes the final decision about the assessment of damages because there is no such rule. Nominal and compensatory damages. The plaintiff is entitled to an equivalent amount for the loss if there are exemplary damages, but if there is more severe harm, the nominal judgment will not be sufficient. The court may also grant exemplary or punitive damages in cases where the detention resulted from a deliberate and careless design intended to cause harm or oppression. Writ of habeas corpus. Under English law, this is sometimes referred to as a golden remedy. A better way to be released from immediate false imprisonment is through this writ. It can be applied in a number of false imprisonment related criminal situations. The last one is self-help. If someone is being held illegally, they can employ self-help organizations to prevent an illegal arrest that would require the use of force. Now let's discuss the defenses against false imprisonment. Valid arrest. An arrest does not qualify as wrongful imprisonment if it is made in accordance with the law and there is sufficient reason to suspect that the subject is engaging in illegal activity. Consent to restraint. An individual cannot assert that they were imprisoned as a victim if they were confined with their agreement and there was no deception involved. Probable cause. The erroneous arrest or detention entirely fails to establish probable cause via conduct. It is well recognized that the plausible cause criteria for detention is objectively based on genuine crimes against persons rather than being based on any actual crimes. Now let's understand false imprisonment with landmark cases. Bhim Singh is the state of Jammu and Kashmir. In this case, the petitioner, a Jammu and Kashmir MLA, was expected to attend the assembly. His opponents used the assistance of some executives and the police to get him falsely jailed so they could stop him from attending the assembly session. Additionally, the magistrate granted remand to the police without following the obligatory procedure of the accused presentation before the magistrate's court prior to being remanded to remain in police custody. Following the end of the assembly session, he was let free. The Supreme Court ruled that the petitioner be given 50,000 rupees in compensation and held the state accountable for the petitioner's unjustified arrest and imprisonment. D.K. Basu was the state of West Bengal. The petitioners raised significant concerns about the authority of the police and whether or not documented violations of fundamental rights as defined by Articles 21 and 22 of the Constitution should result in monetary compensation. The court determined that abuses committed during detention, such as torture and deaths in detention centers, are an assault on the rule of law, which maintains that the executive branch's authority must both derive from and be constrained by the law. The two measures established by the court were accountability and openness of action as a means of preventing the abuse of police authority. The petitioners expressed serious concerns regarding the legitimacy of police power and whether or not infractions of the Constitution's fundamental rights as outlined in Article 21 and 22 should be punished with money. The court concluded that the mistreatment of inmates, including tortures and fatalities in detention facilities, violates the rule of law, which holds that the executive branch's power must come from and be limited by the law. To stop the misuse of police power, the court set two measures: accountability and transparency of activity. Finally, conclude this video on one important note. False imprisonment also violates Article 21 of the Indian Constitution, which includes right to life and personal liberty. Any person who is wrongfully imprisoned can take legal action against the wrongdoer for the violation of their fundamental right. Under Article 21, we have the fundamental right to move freely. If any person is restraining the fundamental right, then he can be sued in the court of law. Thank you and subscribe to Law Minds YouTube channel.